I secretly built a $70 billion empire, while my parents believed I spent my days just reading books. At our parents' anniversary, my sister mocked, "You just sit at home reading pointless books." Meanwhile, I was the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company. I kept my smile and said nothing. The next day, when the newspaper revealed my $7 billion empire, they all turned pale. Immersed in the tranquil sanctuary of my library, I was lost among centuries-old tomes when my brother William's voice unexpectedly pierced the silence. "Still burying yourself in these old books, Elizabeth? Don't you ever tire of missing out on life?" His tone, a blend of amusement and criticism, echoed around the secluded rare book section. Looking up, I saw him casually leaning against a bookshelf, dressed sharply in a designer suit. He stood in stark contrast to my simple librarian outfit. His familiar smirk, unchanged since our childhood, seemed to taunt me silently, an embodiment of his perpetual arrogance. "Hello, William," the first responded with a composed tone, carefully placing the antique book back into its protective case. "I didn't expect to find you here. He sent me to check on you," he continued, straightening up. "Mum's worried you'll make a scene at their anniversary party tonight." William scanned the library with evident disdain. A librarian in the family. Dad's still trying to explain that to his friends at the club. "I'm Elizabeth Harper, the 36-year-old head librarian at the city's central library. To my family, whose wealth spans generations, my career choice remains a source of discomfort. Little do they know, my quiet life among the books conceals more than they could imagine." "I'll be there," I assured him, standing tall. "And I'll dress appropriately. Make sure you do," he replied, adjusting his shiny new Rolex. "It's a big night. I'll be announcing my latest business acquisition. Harper Industries is now a major conglomerate." "That's wonderful, William. Congratulations," I said, managing a neutral expression despite the clenching of my fists. "Thanks," he replied, his tone devoid of genuine warmth. "You know, there's still time for you to join the real world. Our corporate library could use someone like you. At least then you'd be doing something worthwhile." His condescending remark about my knowledge couldn't dampen my spirits. Smiling, I thought of the encrypted laptop secured in my office and the secret meetings I held under an alias. "I'm quite happy where I am," I told him firmly. He shrugged, already disinterested, and reminded me, "Remember, 6 sharp, and try not to bring any books this time." After he left, I waited a few minutes before returning to my office. It appeared typical for a librarian's workspace, but hidden within were the latest security systems and a high-powered, custom-built computer. Locking the door, I booted up my laptop and connected to a secure server. Immediately, video calls from Osaka, Paris, and Boston awaited. "Good morning, Miss Harper," greeted my assistant through the clear connection. "The Lawrence Steele deal is ready for final review." "Thank you, Lauren," I responded, reviewing the documents on my screen. "Has legal finalized their assessment?" "Yes. The terms are solid. We're ready to proceed when you are." Checking my watch, I noted there were still 6 hours until my parents' anniversary celebration. "Schedule the signing for tomorrow morning, Lauren, and ensure everything is set for the announcement." "Already done," she confirmed, though her voice held a hint of hesitation. "But are you sure about the timing?" Thinking of William's smug expression and the years of his dismissive attitude, I felt a resolve harden within me. Tonight, I'd not only celebrate my parents' anniversary, but I'd also be stepping out of the shadows, ready to reveal the full extent of my double life. "Absolutely. Tomorrow morning will work perfectly," I affirmed confidently. After concluding the call, I leaned back in my office chair and reflected on the empire I had stealthily constructed. Harper Global Partners, which bore no connection to my brother William's Harper Industries, had quietly become one of the world's leading private equity firms. Operating under the radar through a network of shell companies and discrete investments, we had masked our true scale from the public eye. For the past 8 years, I balanced this secret with my day job as a librarian, a role I genuinely cherished for its proximity to books and knowledge. Yet, it also served as the perfect disguise. Who would ever suspect a mild-mannered librarian of wielding immense power in global finance? My phone vibrated with a message from my mother. "Don't forget to style your hair, dear. The Hendersons will be there tonight." The Hendersons? Another venerable family my parents aimed to impress. I replied with a brief acknowledgement and started to prepare for the evening. My schedule included a hair appointment and a fitting for the elegant dress I had purchased for the occasion. I was not one to flaunt my wealth openly, but I knew how to assume the role when necessary. Arriving at the salon, which was conveniently empty, another benefit of owning the building, and having a private standing appointment, Emma, my stylist who was in on my secret, greeted me warmly. "The usual today?" she asked. "Something a bit more formal." "Family event," I replied. As she began her work, I caught up on emails via a secure phone. The Lawrence acquisition was progressing smoothly. By tomorrow, Harper Global Partners would secure ownership of a major Asian tech manufacturer, a target my brother had unsuccessfully tried to acquire for months. Emma, making conversation, mentioned, "Your brother was here earlier, bragging about buying a big company. He's trying to buy it." "There's a difference," I responded with a subtle smile. Her glance met mine in the mirror. "Let's just say tomorrow's newspapers will be quite interesting." 4 hours later, I evaluated my reflection at home. The once plain librarian had transformed into a figure who could seamlessly blend into any high society gathering. My dress, a refined deep blue Valentino tailored to perfection, struck the right balance of elegance without ostentation. My jewelry was understated yet luxurious, typical of the old money aesthetic. More importantly, I looked exactly as my family would hope, their bookish daughter making an earnest effort to fit in. Another text came in, this time from Lauren. "Everything set for tomorrow. Are you sure you don't want to reveal the news tonight?" "No," I typed back. "Let them enjoy the party. Tomorrow will be soon enough." As I arrived at the brightly lit Harper family estate, luxury cars lined the driveway, a testament to the generations of wealth gathered there. I pulled up in my modest Audi, another deliberate choice, classy yet unassuming enough not to stir questions about a librarian's salary. Roy, our family's longtime butler, welcomed me at the door. "Your parents are in the main hall," he informed me. As I approached, the sounds of the party grew clearer, the sophisticated murmur of conversation, the clinking of fine crystal, and the soft melodies of a string quartet filled the air. This was the world of my parents, a world from which I had chosen to step away, at least in the public eye. My mother's voice rang out as I entered. "Elizabeth, darling, you look presentable." Coming from her, it was high praise indeed. Helen Harper, my mother, had never truly forgiven me for choosing a life among books over the family business. Tonight, however, I was ready to play the part, blending my two worlds together before revealing the full scope of my secret life. I had made an effort to look my best for the evening. "Happy anniversary, Mum," I greeted her, planting a gentle kiss on her cheek. She looked stunning, as always. At 65, she still carried herself with an air of grace and style that her friends half-jokingly claimed was the result of a pact with the devil. "Your father's by the fireplace," she directed, her eyes already roving the room for other prominent guests. "Do say hello before you sneak off to the library." Navigating through the crowd, I received the usual air kisses and polite questions about my little job at the library. Many of these people had watched me grow up alongside their children and still couldn't grasp why I chose my path. "There's my girl," my dad's voice boomed as I neared. He was surrounded by his usual entourage of golf buddies and longtime business associates. "Come here, let them see you," he beckoned, drawing me into an enthusiastic hug. I could tell by his slightly slurred words that he had started celebrating early. "Still buried in those books," Peter Henderson remarked with a tone that belittled my profession. "Yes, still preserving knowledge for the next generation," I replied, maintaining my composure. Their laughter followed, the indulgent kind reserved for what they perceived as harmless eccentricities. "Speaking of the next generation," my dad interjected proudly, "where's your brother? He's got some big news." As if on cue, William appeared, champagne in hand, and dressed in an even more lavish suit, his Rolex gleaming under the lights. "Everyone," he called out, ensuring he had the room's attention, "I'd like to make an announcement." The room fell silent, all eyes on him. William always relished being the center of attention. "As some of you know, Harper Industries has been expanding rapidly," he began, his voice full of confidence. "Today, I'm thrilled to announce that we are about to make our biggest acquisition yet. By next week, we will own Lawrence Tech." Applause filled the room. My dad beamed with pride, and my mum dabbed her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. I took a sip of my champagne, waiting patiently. "Of course," William continued, "the deal isn't final yet, but my sources assure me it's only a matter of time. The papers are ready to sign." "That's wonderful, son," my dad exclaimed. "Always knew you had it in you. A real businessman just like your old man." As William basked in the applause and congratulations, His eyes eventually found mine. "What do you think, little sister?" he asked, his tone dripping with condescension. "Ready to admit you backed the wrong horse?" I met his gaze calmly. "I think," I said carefully, "that you shouldn't count your chickens before they hatch." He laughed, and others joined him. "Always so cautious. That's why you'll never be more than what you are, hiding in your library while the rest of us build empires." "Perhaps," I agreed mildly, "but at least one understand the value of due diligence." His eyes narrowed slightly. William never liked it when I used terms he deemed too intellectual, viewing it as a challenge to his smarts. "Due diligence," he scoffed. "I've got the best lawyers in the business. Everything's taken care of." I just smiled and raised my glass. "Then I guess you'll see tomorrow, won't you?" My tone hinted at something more, causing a frown to crease his forehead. Before he could question further, our mum called everyone to dinner. The dining room was a vision of old-world elegance. Gleaming mahogany, priceless china, and crystal that had been in the family for generations. As we moved toward the dinner, I felt a mix of anticipation and satisfaction. Tomorrow would indeed be interesting. Taking my seat at the far end of the expansive dinner table, I couldn't help but chuckle silently at the seating arrangement. Clearly, I was tucked away from the evening's esteemed guests, a subtle snub that didn't escape my notice. As the appetizers were served, William dominated the conversation at the other end, boasting about his business acumen. I engaged minimally, offering polite responses when necessary. Otherwise, I focused on the delightful cuisine. Beside me, Miss S. Henderson leaned in, her voice low with a hint of bewilderment. "You were so bright in school, Elizabeth. You could have been anything. Why devote your life to books?" I paused, knowing that in just a few hours, everything about how she viewed me could change. But for the moment, I remained the understated librarian. "Books are far from a waste," I explained calmly. "They teach us to see beyond the surface, to understand that things aren't always as they appear." She shook her head, clearly unsatisfied with my response. "Well, at least your brother is carrying on the family legacy," she sighed. "It must be difficult to watch him succeed while you linger in his shadow." "It's not as tough as you might think," I replied, a subtle hint of amusement in my voice. Dinner continued with a mix of subtle jabs and backhanded compliments. I had become adept at letting such remarks slide off me like rain off a slicker. As dessert was served, William stood up to make another announcement, his glass raised high. "Here's to Mum and Dad, who taught me everything about the business and showed me what success looks like." He paused, his gaze shifting toward me. "And to my sister, who, well, shows that not everyone is cut out for the business world." The room emitted a polite chuckle. I toasted along with them, my mind racing ahead to the documents set to alter the course of Harper Industries and my press release scheduled for the morning. Later, William cornered me by the dessert table. "Enjoying the party?" He smirked. "It's lovely," I replied, masking my anticipation. "Mom and Dad must be thrilled." "They are," he boasted, adjusting his tie. "Though it would have been nice if both their children had turned out successful." I selected a chocolate truffle, examining it as if it held the secrets of the universe. "You know, William, success isn't always about who makes the most noise." He snorted dismissively. "No, tell that to my bank account. How much does a librarian make? These days, anyway. Enough to buy those shoes." I glanced down at my carefully chosen footwear. "I'm good with money, you know." He finished his champagne in one gulp. "Well, this has been fun, but I've got people to see and deals to close. Big day tomorrow with that Lawrence deal." As he walked away, I pulled out my phone and quickly texted Lauren. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" Her reply was instant. "All set. The press release goes out at 8 a.m. sharp. Want me to send you the final numbers?" "No need," I replied, a smile playing on my lips. "I'll see them in the papers, along with everyone else." The party wound down around midnight, and as I made my rounds of goodbyes, I endured one last volley of condescending remarks about my career choices. "You really should consider William's offer," my mother suggested as I kissed her cheek goodbye. "A corporate library would be so much more suitable for you." "I'll think about it," I lied smoothly, knowing full well my path lay in a different direction. As I drove home, I contemplated the seismic shift that the next day would bring. For 8 years, I had built my empire in secret, while my family regarded me as the disappointing daughter who chose books over business. Tomorrow, they would discover just how wrong they had been. The next morning, I arrived at the library at 7:00 a.m., as I had done every day for the past 8 years. My sensible shoes echoed through the marble halls, a familiar sound to the early morning regulars who never questioned why the head librarian maintained such meticulous hours. Lauren was already there, her tablet in hand. Here in the library, she was my assistant librarian. Outside these walls, she was the coup of Harper Global Partners and one of the sharpest business minds in the industry. Lauren greeted me quietly as we entered my office. "Everything's ready," she said, her voice low and efficient. "The lawyers are assembling in Osaka, and the press release is scheduled to go out in 50 minutes. I placed my bag on the desk and powered up my secure laptop. "Any word from William's team?" I asked, knowing they were also aiming to close the Lawrence deal this morning. "They're setting up now. Still confident they'll seal the deal," she informed me, a trace of a smirk on her face. I couldn't help but smile, picturing William's shock once he learned the truth. Let's give them a few more minutes of hope. At precisely 7:15 a.m., my private line rang. It was Mr. Lawrence's translator. "Miss Harper, everyone is ready. Excellent. Let's proceed." The next few minutes were a whirlwind of signatures and official confirmations. By 8:00 a.m., Harper Global Partners had officially acquired Lawrence Tech, securing its subsidiaries, patents, and advanced technology divisions. "Press release is going out now," Lauren announced. I opened several news tabs on my laptop, watching as our story hit the headlines across various platforms. Breaking: mystery buyer acquires Lawrence Tech. Global finance giant Harper Global Partners reveals identity of founder. Wall Street stunned as library sciences expert named as business mogul. My phone buzzed relentlessly. The first call, unsurprisingly, was from William. "What the hell is this?" he blurted out without preamble, his tone a mix of confusion and outrage. "Good morning to you too, brother," I replied calmly. "I take it you've seen the news. This is impossible. Harper Global Partners? That's not. You're not the founder and CEO. Actually, I am. Have been for 8 years now, though I understand your confusion. After all, I'm just a librarian, right?" I could almost hear his brain working overtime, the sound of papers rustling frantically in the background. But I had a deal. The paperwork was ready. "Was it?" I asked innocently. "You might want to check the fine print. Lawrence Tech has been in play for months. We've just been waiting for the right moment to finalize things." "We." His voice cracked. "Who's we?" "My team, my company, my empire." I paused with each declaration, letting the reality sink in. "You know, the one I built while you were busy underestimating my career choices." The line went dead. Lauren, trying not to grin too broadly, looked at me with anticipation. How long until my parents' call? She glanced at her watch. Right on cue, my mother's number flashed on my screen. "Elizabeth Harper." Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "What have you done?" "Good morning, Mum. I'm a bit busy at the moment, but perhaps we could discuss this over dinner." "Dinner? Do you have any idea what's happening? Your father's phone hasn't stopped ringing. The Hendersons, the club everyone is calling, wanting to know how our librarian daughter secretly built a multi-billion-dollar company." I could hear my dad in the background trying to field calls of his own. "Tell her to get over here right now," he demanded. "I have meetings all day," I responded, which was indeed true. The acquisition of Lawrence Tech was just the beginning. "But I'd be happy to host everyone for dinner at my place tonight." "Say 6? Your place?" Mum's voice dripped with skepticism. "You mean that little apartment near the library?" "No, I mean my penthouse on Calm Avenue. I'll text you the address." There was a lengthy pause. "Calm Avenue? But that's the most expensive building in the city, is it?" I hadn't noticed. "See you at 6, Mum." After ending the call, I took a deep breath. 8 years of secrets were out in the open. 8 years of meticulous planning and maintaining a facade while building something truly monumental. "Ready for phase 3? Lauren asked. I nodded. "Send out the second press release." This one was even more significant than the first. Harper Global Partners announces merger with East Asian tech giants, deal valued at $70 billion. The merger had been in the works for months, a strategic play that would further solidify our position on the global stage. We timed it impeccably to coincide with the Lawrence acquisition. By the time my family arrived for dinner, the business world would be left stunned by two of the largest deals of the decade, both masterminded by someone they had long underestimated, the quiet librarian. The day unfolded in a series of meticulously planned activities, including meetings, interviews, and strategic sessions. I gave a single interview to the Wall Street Journal, where I shared how a background in library sciences was surprisingly to many, the perfect preparation for building a global empire. Information is power, I told the reporter, a statement that resonated deeply with my librarian roots. By 5:00 p.m., I left the public facade of the library behind and headed to what was truly my domain, the top-floor penthouse on Calm Avenue that had been my actual home for the past 6 years. Although I maintained a modest apartment near the library to preserve appearances, it was here in the penthouse where my life's real work took place. My private elevator opened into a sprawling space that dwarfed Williams' corporate headquarters, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city and technology that connected me to my operations globally. Lauren had arranged for dinner to be catered by the city's top restaurant, another asset under the Harper Global Partners umbrella. The dining room was set with the sort of understated elegance that whispered of old money and deep pockets. At precisely 6:00 p.m., my family arrived. William was the first to step out of the elevator, his swagger replaced by a barely contained fury. Mom and Dad followed, both appearing shell-shocked. Even Roy, the faithful butler, seemed at a loss, struggling to reconcile the image of the family's underachiever with the reality of one of the city's most affluent individuals. "Welcome to my home," I greeted them, gesturing toward the expansive view. "How long?" William demanded, his voice tense. "How long have I been lying to you?" I clarified, moving toward the bar to pour myself a scotch. "I haven't lied about anything. I am a librarian. I do love books. I also just happen to run a global financial empire. But why?" Mom collapsed onto one of the Italian leather sofas, bewildered. "Why the deception? Why let us believe you were a failure?" I finished for her, handing her a drink. "Maybe because you never looked beyond your assumptions. You saw what you wanted, a disappointing daughter who chose books over business." Dad stood by the windows, staring out at the city. "All this time," he murmured, "all those companies, the mysterious acquisitions. That was you. Harper Global Partners," William said flatly. "The competition everyone's been trying to figure out. The shadow empire that's been reshaping the market." I couldn't help but smile. It does have a nice ring to it. However, I prefer to think of it as a knowledge empire. After all, isn't that what you taught me, Dad? Knowledge is power. He turned, looking at me with new eyes, respect replacing the usual frustration. "The Lawrence deal," he said slowly. "How long have you been planning that?" "About 8 months, I explained. "Though I've owned a controlling interest in their subsidiaries for over a year." William's face changed from anger to disbelief. "You've been playing me all this time." "Not playing, William, competing. Isn't that what you always wanted? A real contest to prove who's better at business. But it wasn't fair," he exploded. "You had inside information, secret resources." "Inside information." I laughed, the sound echoing around the plush room. "You mean like the kind you brag about getting from your golf buddies? The deals you close on private yachts and at exclusive resorts?" "No, William. The first built my empire with nothing but intelligence, hard work, and an understanding of how crucial information flows." Setting my glass down with a soft clink, I looked around at my stunned family. This empire was built on skill and strategy, not just capital and connections. It's not just about who you know, but what you know and what you do with that knowledge. At the small library that shaped my intellect, I gained an advantage not obvious to others. One evening at dinner, amid palpable tension, my mother observed our luxurious surroundings, noting my apparent affluence. My father, lost in thought, seemed to be re-evaluating his past business decisions. Breaking the silence, my mother commented on the elegant dinner setting, linking it to my lavish spending. I light-heartedly redirected her focus to the essentials. My brother William, clearly uneasy, questioned my future business moves. I proposed a partnership, explaining that his company needed modernization and a global perspective, which I was ready to provide. Although surprised, my father supported the idea, recognizing it as an opportunity for William to engage in something significant. As dinner progressed, it became a moment of revelation and reconciliation. I shared the journey of building my company, leveraging my time at the library as a perfect cover. William's initial skepticism shifted to admiration and engagement in our potential partnership. Toward the end of the evening, my mother questioned why I chose to reveal everything now. I explained the importance of showing that success doesn't always conform to traditional symbols like suits and luxury watches. William added that it's also a reminder not to judge superficially. After everyone left, I reflected on the evening with Lauren, my confidant. The stocks were up, indicating positive market reactions. We planned to officially announce the merger soon, hoping by then William would fully embrace this new collaborative approach. This evening was not just a dinner but a turning point, challenging old perceptions and paving the way for a new understanding of success. I reflected on the emotions of that moment, my mother's tearful expression of regret and my father's beaming pride as he truly recognized me for the first time. They were starting to understand that achieving success doesn't always match our expectations. The following day, I entered the library at the usual time. The familiar faces were all in their usual places, casually greeting me, their cherished librarian. Even though my face had been featured in every major business magazine across the country, their demeanor toward me hadn't changed. This was perhaps my most significant triumph. In a world preoccupied with appearances and prestige, I had built something authentic, something that stood on its own without the need for designer brands or societal endorsements to validate its importance. I was still the same librarian, still passionate about books. Yet now, I was also a billionaire. After all, knowledge comes in various forms, and sometimes the most influential individuals are the ones you least anticipate.